Trevor won an Oscar for singing drunk in Key Largo. But what the audience didn't know was that director John Huston had planned something cruel. On her 38th birthday, he ambushed her on set and refused to let her rehearse. He wanted her fear to be real. And it was. That performance broke something inside her. Months later, she quietly started therapy, something almost no actress admitted in 1948. The truth about what happened that day and why it hurt so much stayed hidden for decades. Trevor was born on March 8, 1910, in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Her real name was Claire Wemlinger. Her father, Noel, had come from Paris and opened a fancy tailor shop on Fifth Avenue. His clients were rich people from Manhattan. For a while, the family lived a comfortable life. But when the Great Depression hit around 1923, everything fell apart. Noel's business collapsed almost overnight. The dream they had built vanished. They lost their home, their savings, and their peace. Claire was just 13 when she had to start working to help the family survive. That was the end of her childhood. She watched her father go from proud businessman to a broken man with nothing left. That moment stayed with her for life. It made her promise herself she'd never rely on anyone for money again. Her parents wanted her to choose a safe job. Her father believed in tailoring. Her mother thought dressmaking was good enough. But Claire had other ideas. She fell in love with acting when she was 11. In 1921, she started copying silent film stars like Mary Pickford. She did it in secret. She would slip into movie theaters in Brooklyn and sit alone for hours, watching every gesture and movement on the screen. Then she'd go home and act out the scenes when her parents weren't looking. Her father thought acting was shameful. Her mother just didn't take it seriously. But Claire kept going. Even when she was punished, even when she was told to stop, she kept dreaming. In 1923, the family moved to Larchmont. Claire was 13 and joined Mamaroneck High School. That's where she began shaping her voice into something completely different. She chose to play tough girls in school plays. After school, she stayed late, alone in classrooms, lowering her voice and roughening it on purpose. She even started smoking to make it raspier. Her voice became her trademark, deep, smoky, and sharp. It wasn't natural. She built it. And it made her sound older than she was. Her teachers didn't understand it at first, but she was already becoming the hard-edged woman Hollywood would later call its bad girl. Then came the worst moment with her father. Around 1925, he caught her practicing a monologue. Furious, he locked her in her room for days. He didn't want her acting. He thought it was dangerous, shameful, and would ruin the family's reputation. But Claire didn't stop. She kept going to rehearsals. The yelling in their apartment became so loud that neighbors could hear it through the walls. That fight with her father changed her forever. She became stronger. She decided she would fight for her dream, even if her family turned against her. In 1927, Claire tried to meet her parents halfway. She enrolled at Columbia University and took art classes for 6 months. Her father hoped art was more respectable. But instead of falling in love with painting, Claire became obsessed with stage design and theater costumes. She spent more time watching Broadway shows than attending class. That's when she realized her place wasn't in front of a canvas. It was under the stage lights. By 1928, she joined the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. She trained there for 6 months. The school was strict. Every day was packed with exercises on voice, emotion, and movement. She learned to control her breath, speak clearly, and show pain without saying a word. Her Brooklyn accent vanished. Her deep, husky voice became refined. She practiced scenes from Shakespeare and Chekhov. Her teachers saw something rare in her. She could be tough, but also vulnerable. Her family paid $200 for the training, a big amount at that time. But it worked. In the summer of 1929, when Claire was 19, she got her first real job. She performed with Robert Henderson's repertory players in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They paid her $25 a week, plus room and board. Her first big part was a loudmouth saloon girl in a George Bernard Shaw play. She was terrified at first, but the crowd clapped for her. That summer, she acted in Antigone, The Seagull, and Lady Windermere's Fan. Every week, she had to learn a new script and rehearse day and night. It was hard, but she loved it. She went back to New York in 1930. A Warner Brothers talent scout found her and cast her in short films called Vitaphone Shorts. These were filmed in Brooklyn using new sound technology. Claire played flirty girls and chorus dancers in fast-paced scenes. One of her roles was in Angel Cake in 1931. Each short paid her about $50. That was double what she made on stage. And these little films taught her how to work with sound, a skill that would help her in Hollywood. In 1930, she realized her name wasn't going to work in showbiz. Wemlinger sounded too foreign. It didn't look good on posters, so she let her agent flip through a phone book and pick something that sounded elegant. He picked Trevor. Claire liked it. It cost her $10 to make it official. She briefly tried names like Claire Sinclair and Claire St. Clair before settling. She wanted a name that felt glamorous, something that didn't scream Brooklyn immigrant, and it worked. Her big break came in 1932. Broadway producer Alexander McCaig saw her perform with the Hampton Players and cast her in a play called Whistling in the Dark. It opened on January 19th at the Ethel Barrymore Theater. She played a clever reporter who outsmarts criminals. The show ran for 265 performances across 2 theaters and paid her $75 a week. It wasn't much, but it gave her confidence and a solid reputation. That role helped shape her film persona, the woman who could take on anyone. The following year, she starred in another play called The Party's Over. She played a wealthy woman caught in scandal. Critics loved her, but backstage was a nightmare. She was harassed by male co-stars, something many actresses faced in silence. The show flopped, but Hollywood was watching. Fox Studios offered her a 5-year contract. It paid far more than Broadway. And after what she'd gone through, she was ready to leave New York behind. Back in 1931, before her Broadway break, Claire had done summer stock theater with the Hampton Players. She earned just $5 a week. She worked non-stop, building sets, learning scripts, acting in multiple roles per week. During a summer heat wave, she almost collapsed from exhaustion, but she didn't quit. She later said it was the best training she ever had. To survive, she had also acted in more Vitaphone shorts between 1931 and 1932. She appeared in Good Times, The Meal Ticket, and The Imperfect Love. These were B-reel fillers, but they gave her experience. She also worked nights as a waitress in speakeasies to pay rent. These illegal bars were dangerous, but the tips helped. She saw the dark side of life up close. Gangsters, drunks, secrets. That knowledge would later help her play noir roles with eerie realism. Then came one of the hardest moments. In 1932, she auditioned for the lead in Street Scene, a major Broadway play. She didn't get the part. They said her face looked too ethnic. That hit her hard, but instead of giving up, she transformed. She bleached her dark hair platinum blonde. She made her image sharper, colder, tougher. It was a bold move. Some people didn't like it, but it worked. It got her in the door. She learned that success often meant giving up pieces of yourself. and she was willing to do whatever it took. Claire Trevor didn't come to Hollywood as a star. She came because she was broke. It was May 1933. She was 23. Her second Broadway play had failed, and she needed money fast. That's when Fox Studios offered her a 5-year contract. She took it right away. Her first movie was Life in the Raw, a 59-minute Western released on July 7, 1933. She played Judy Halloway, a woman in a tough world, opposite George O'Brien. The story was based on a Zane Grey short story. Her father was so strict that he made her mother move to Hollywood with her. But instead of keeping things calm, her mother started loving the chaos of movie sets. She stayed up late, watched shoots until 2 or 3 in the morning, and acted like she belonged there more than Claire did. Claire later said it was both thrilling and exhausting. That same year, something happened that changed her life forever. A movie called Jimmy and Sally was meant for James Dunn and Sally Eilers, the popular pair from Bad Girl. But Eilers suddenly dropped out. Fox needed a replacement, and they chose Claire. It was her first real film role. She had to play a clever secretary named Sally Johnson, who covered for her boss's mistakes. She had never done anything like it before. But when cameras rolled, her chemistry with Dunn shocked everyone. It was so strong that Fox signed them for 2 more movies in 1934. That moment, a missed opportunity for one actress, opened the door for Claire's whole career. But Hollywood wasn't kind. Between 1933 and 1938, Claire acted in 29 films. Most of them were short, low-budget movies meant to fill theater schedules. The studio kept giving her the same kinds of roles, over and over again. People started calling her the Queen of the B's because she did so many B movies. In 1935, she starred in Dante's Inferno with Spencer Tracy. The film had huge special effects to show the 7 circles of hell. Fox spent a lot of money on it, but Claire got paid like she was still doing cheap films. Darryl F. Zanuck, the studio head, admitted he didn't believe in her. So no matter how good she was, she stayed stuck in the B-movie world. She worked without rest, jumping from one film to the next, with no time to breathe. It nearly broke her spirit. In 1937, something finally shifted. CBS launched a radio show called Big Town, starring Edward G. Robinson as a tough newspaper editor. Claire played his reporter, Lorelei. The show became a huge hit. It paid Claire double what she earned from movies. At its peak, it pulled in up to 20 million listeners. But the schedule was brutal. After filming all day, she'd rush to the radio studio and perform live late into the night, often working until 3 a.m. Robinson had control over the scripts, and soon he started cutting her lines to make more room for himself. Things got tense. Claire married the show's producer, Clark Andrews, in July 1938. But even that didn't last. They both left the show in 1939, and their marriage ended in 1942. She tried to break out of the gun mall roles. In 1938, Warner Brothers borrowed her from Fox to play Jo Keller in The Amazing Dr. Clitterhouse. Once again, she was a tough woman wrapped up in crime. Claire wanted to play different roles, softer roles, but the studios wouldn't let her. She begged for a chance to show what else she could do. Fox said no. That year, even after she got an Oscar nomination for Dead End, they put her in 2 more cheap films instead of giving her a big one. In 1937, she made 27 through 55. That same year, Gary Cooper made $370,000. She had enough. In 1938, Claire walked away from Fox, choosing freedom over steady pay. Then came Stagecoach. In 1939, she played Dallas, a woman with a complicated past, riding through dangerous land with strangers. John Wayne played the Ringo Kid, but at the time, Claire was the bigger star. She earned more money. The movie became a classic and got nominated for Best Picture. Her performance was layered and emotional, and for the first time, people saw her as more than just a B-movie actress. Her chemistry with Wayne worked so well, they did 2 more films together that same year. Stagecoach changed everything. It pushed Wayne into fame and gave Claire the respect she had always deserved. 2 years earlier, in Dead End, she had stunned audiences. She played Francie, a woman who had fallen into a rough life. The role barely lasted 5 minutes, but it shook people. Her character was sick, poor, and desperate. In one scene, she stepped from darkness into light and begged Humphrey Bogart's character to really look at her. The words were simple, but her face told the real story. They couldn't say the word prostitute or mention illness due to censorship rules, but Claire's acting said it all. That performance earned her her first Oscar nomination. Later in 1939, Claire starred with Wayne again in Allegheny Uprising, a film about colonial rebels in 1765. She played Janie McDougal, a woman who rode and fought alongside the men. Once again, she got top billing over Wayne. The movie was banned in the UK during World War II because it showed British soldiers in a bad light. It didn't do well at the box office because another film came out the same week. But Claire's role stood out. She wasn't just a love interest, she was part of the action. In 1940, she returned in Dark Command, this time caught between 2 men during the Civil War. She played Mary McLeod, a woman married to a man who turns violent. Walter Pidgeon played the outlaw husband, and Wayne played the hero. There was a dangerous stunt in that film, horses and riders leaping off a cliff. It was so risky that people started calling for safety rules for animals in movies. The film got 2 Oscar nominations, including Best Score and Best Art Direction. In the early 1940s, Claire joined Donna Mesho on NBC's Old Gold radio show. They performed live versions of dramatic plays written by Mark Hellinger. This wasn't just filler work. Radio was a big deal back then, and it gave Claire the chance to show off her range. She worked hard to adapt her movie acting for the mic. Her voice carried all the emotion. She didn't just survive between film roles, she grew. By 1944, Claire stepped into the world of film noir. In Murder, My Sweet, she played Helen Grail, a mysterious and dangerous woman, opposite Dick Powell's Philip Marlowe. The movie was based on Raymond Chandler's novel, Farewell, My Lovely. But they had to change the title because people thought it sounded like a musical. The shoot began in May, and was so chaotic on the first day that Claire was still being sewn into her dress while the scene was being set. The film didn't release until March 1945. Her role became iconic. She wasn't just a supporting actress anymore. She was now the face of film noir. In 1947, she went even darker in Born to Kill. She played Helen Brent, a cold and twisted woman attracted to a killer. Critics said the movie was full of gross lust and shocking brutality. Claire's character was so mean and so broken that people couldn't look away. She was engaged to one man, while her lover married her half-sister. The whole story was twisted, and her lines cut deep. At one point, she said, "Perhaps you don't realize it's painful being killed, a piece of metal sliding into your body." The censors cut what they could, but they couldn't take away her power on screen. In 1948, Claire starred in Raw Deal by Anthony Mann. She played Pat, the girlfriend of a convict on the run. The movie was filmed with deep shadows and moody lighting. Claire's voice opened the story with the line, "Waiting, waiting. All my life it seems as if I've been waiting for Joe." She wore black like she was mourning, and she brought that feeling into every scene. The story was filled with tension, love triangles, and revenge. The director left most of the acting decisions to the cast, and Claire delivered something unforgettable. In 1945, she also did Johnny Angel, set on ships and docks. She played a woman with secrets, married to a shipping boss while falling for a sea captain. The story involved a missing crew and hidden gold. George Raft played the captain, and Hoagy Carmichael showed up to sing and act. The setting was New Orleans, perfect for a noir mystery. Then, in 1946, came Crack Up. Claire acted alongside Pat O'Brien in a story about a man who thought he was in a train crash that never happened. Was he crazy, or was someone lying to him? Claire's role pulled her into a world of art theft, paranoia, and betrayal. Some critics said the plot didn't always make sense, but Claire's performance added weight and emotion. The film didn't break records, but it stayed with those who watched it. On March 24, 1949, Claire Trevor stood on the Oscar stage holding the golden statue that would change her life forever. She had just won Best Supporting Actress at the 21st Academy Awards for her haunting role as Gay Dawn in Key Largo. She beat out powerful names like Gene Simmons from Hamlet, Agnes Moorehead from Johnny Belinda, and both Ellen Corby and Barbara Bel Geddes from I Remember, Mama. But behind her graceful smile and warm thank you to her husband, there was something deeper, something no one in the audience could see. Just a year before that night, on March 8, 1948, Trevor had been ambushed on set. It was her 38th birthday, and director John Huston had planned something cruel and clever. He made her film the heartbreaking Moanin' Low scene without any rehearsals, ignoring all her requests for a run-through. He wanted her to be nervous. He wanted her fear to be real. So when she stood there as Gay Dawn, begging Edward G. Robinson's gangster character for a drink, shaking and singing off-key, that wasn't acting. That was Claire, scared, vulnerable, and exposed. That single take, raw and painful, became the heart of the film. But what audiences didn't know was how much it hurt her. The role of Gay Dawn, a broken, alcoholic former singer caught in a violent relationship, cut too close to home. Playing that woman tore into Claire's emotions so deeply that after the film, she quietly started therapy. In 1948 Hollywood, that was almost unthinkable. No one talked about therapy, especially not famous actresses. Her co-stars thought it was just acting, but Claire knew it wasn't. She carried the character's bruises long after the cameras stopped rolling. And maybe that was because her own life wasn't far from the script. Just months before she filmed Key Largo, Claire's second marriage had ended. Her divorce from Navy officer Silas William Dunsmore was finalized on August 15, 1947. Rumors swirled about what really happened between them. Whispers of drinking problems, heated arguments, and quiet breakdowns were passed around behind closed doors. So when she stepped into Gay Dawn's shoes, some in Hollywood said she didn't have to act, she just had to remember. At the Oscars, she joked about hoping her sons would grow up to be writers or directors so they could give their old lady a job. Everyone laughed. But what they didn't know was that Claire was terrified. This win, instead of opening new doors, threatened to trap her in a box she couldn't break out of. It was her second Oscar nomination for playing a broken woman. The first was for Dead End in 1937, where she played another tragic figure. Now, she feared this would be her future. Always the drunk, the desperate, the discarded. Her personal life wasn't helping either. By 1949, she had been married 3 times. After her divorce, she had just married producer Milton Brenn in November 1948, hoping for some kind of stability. But deep down, she wasn't sure if she'd ever escape the shadow of these roles. Hollywood loved her pain. They wanted more of it. and she kept giving it. In 1954, she was nominated again for The High and the Mighty. This time, she played May Holst, a panicked passenger on a failing airplane. The film became a huge hit, earning over $6 million on a $1.4 million budget. But the shoot nearly broke her. Long 12-hour days inside a fake cockpit triggered migraines so bad she could barely stand. She had to pretend to be sick from altitude, but the real sickness was starting to creep in. She lost the Oscar to Eva Marie Saint from On the Waterfront. But the exhaustion was starting to show. In 1956, she signed on to The Mountain with Spencer Tracy. She played his controlling sister. But everything about the production went wrong. Tracy's drinking was a problem. The casting was so strange that Tracy, at 56, looked more like Robert Wagner's grandfather than brother. And the director, Edward Dmytryk, kept cutting Claire's scenes. She fought back, saying her role was being gutted. But no one listened. She later called the film terrible and ludicrous. It cost $2.8 million to make, but didn't do well at the box office. Claire was fed up. Her roles were shrinking, and her patience was running out. Then something unexpected happened. In 1957, she stepped onto live television and won. In a live 90-minute episode of Producers Showcase called Dodsworth, she played Fran opposite Frederick March. 20 million people tuned in, and halfway through a dramatic scene, her dress zipper broke. But she didn't panic. While stagehands fixed the problem behind a nearby prop, she improvised her lines without missing a beat. It was live TV. There were no retakes. Critics were stunned. Variety called it the most graceful recovery from disaster on live television. And that night, Claire won the Emmy. She returned to live drama again in Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1961. The episode, A Crime for Mothers, gave her the role of a desperate alcoholic mother trying to kidnap her own daughter. Once again, she poured herself into the character. There was even a poison scene that wasn't working, so Claire made up her own version on the spot. Hitchcock himself praised her instincts. But behind the scenes, there were whispers that Hitchcock had made unwanted advances, and Claire shut it down firmly. She stayed professional, protecting her reputation in a world that didn't always protect women. By the early 1960s, Hollywood had changed. Roles for women her age had dried up. Claire moved into television, appearing in shows like Lux Video Theater and General Electric Theater. She earned $5,000 per episode, which was a big paycheck at the time. But the pace caught up with her. In 1962, after too many long days and not enough rest, she collapsed from exhaustion. Doctors found signs of stress-related heart problems. She had to stop everything. For 3 months, she stayed out of the spotlight, quietly recovering. She was only 52, but already being treated like she was finished. Even though she still had fans and name recognition, the offers were fewer, and they felt smaller. Claire had already lived through personal storms. She married Clark Andrews in 1938. He was a radio director, and they met while working on Big Town. But as Claire's fame grew, Clark became jealous. During World War II, the distance made things worse, and soon the tabloids were filled with stories of fights and abuse. They divorced in 1942 after 4 rough years. She married again in 1943 to Navy officer Silas William Dunsmore. They had a son named Charles, born on December 1, 1943. But after the war, Dunsmore came back with PTSD. His violent mood swings made the home unsafe, and Claire had to protect her baby. Studios covered up the abuse to save her image. She divorced him in 1947 and kept custody of Charles. A year later, in 1948, she married Milton Brenn, a rich film producer. He adopted Charles, who became Charles Brenn. Claire also became a mother figure to Milton's sons, Donald and Peter. She said, "We were an instant family." They stayed married for 31 years until Milton died in 1979 from a brain tumor. Even though he was wealthy, his illness left Claire with big medical bills and complicated inheritance problems. Still, she kept the family close. But tragedy hit before that. On September 25, 1978, Claire's son Charles died in one of the worst air disasters in U.S. history. PSA Flight 182 collided mid-air with a small Cessna over San Diego. The fireball killed all 144 people on both planes and 7 more on the ground. Charles was just 34. He was flying as a PSA employee when it happened. Claire said later, "That was something you never get over." After losing both Charles and Milton, Claire poured herself into helping others. In 1999, she donated $500,000 to UC Irvine's School of the Arts. It was part of a bigger $7.5 million gift supported by her stepson, Donald Bren's foundation. When she died, Donald gave another $10 million. The school was renamed the Claire Trevor School of the Arts. But Claire wasn't just a donor. She sat in on rehearsals, gave students advice, and helped train more than 10,000 young artists. It became her way of staying connected and passing on everything she had learned. In her final years, she started painting. Using watercolors, she made pictures of old Hollywood streets, shadowy figures, and city scenes that felt like movie stills. She had studied art back in the 1920s at Columbia University, long before she became famous. Now, painting gave her peace. She showed her work in small galleries and gave pieces to local charity events. It let her express herself without cameras or scripts. She made her last acting appearance in 1987 in a TV film called Norman Rockwell's Breaking Home Ties. She played a teacher named Grace Porter, acting alongside Jason Robards and Eva Marie Saint. That same Eva had once beaten her for the Oscar back in 1954. Her career had started in 1932, and this marked its quiet end. In 1998, at age 88, she appeared one last time at the Academy Awards. During the tribute called Oscar's Family Album, she was honored as one of the last living legends. The crowd gave her a warm ovation. It was a full-circle moment for the woman who once lit up the screen as the bad girl with a hidden heart. Claire Trevor passed away on April 8, 2000. She had just turned 90 1 month earlier. She died of respiratory failure near her home in Newport Beach. Her funeral was private, with only family and close friends in attendance. Donald Bren said she was a special woman whose lifelong passion was to bring joy to others. Her money continued funding scholarships and training young actors. Her Hollywood Walk of Fame, star at 6933 Hollywood Boulevard, still shines for anyone passing by. She lived through the best and worst of show business and turned her pain into purpose. Even after her death, she helped shape the future of American storytelling.